I have a big Godzilla-related problem. When I went to water my Anguirus plant, I noticed something super weird. They finally ripened, and I only had 2 Showa and 1 Millennium Anguirus, and no Monsterverse Anguiruses. Well, we can't have that, and I don't buy the lore that he's dead in the Monsterverse, so we'll have to retcon that for them with a brand new custom figure. Welcome to Kaiju Co., where we take a Godzilla kaiju from one era, shove them into a monster-sized time machine, and design a figure based on what they might have looked like if they were created in a different era. Today we will be designing Godzilla's first adversary, Anguirus, in a modern Monsterverse style. Anguirus is a giant ankylosaurus kaiju that first made his appearance in Godzilla Raids Again, and as mentioned was the first kaiju to go up against the Big G in 1955. He is one of the classic monsters people think of when they think of Godzilla, also appearing as an ally during the Showa era similar to Rodan or Mothra. Characterized by a horn-tipped snout and a carapace of sharp spikes, he has remained a staple of Godzilla media for decades, appearing in numerous iterations across the franchise. Now, how can we transform our spiky boy into a more modern and realistic spiky boy? One that could go toe-to-toe with Legendary's version of Godzilla and not look out of place? Well, first we'll have to figure out what features we think will accentuate this era without compromising too much on what makes this kaiju Anguirus. For one, I think it would pay off to make his head shape slightly more angular to fit the look of the monsters in this universe. We can also make the spikes on his back look similar to those of Shimo's, but arrayed in a way that forms the shell-like structure he's known to have. Although we will be doing a bunch of design improv guesstimating how he might look in the Monsterverse, he's actually made an appearance in the universe, but is a long-gone skeleton. Even though he's just a pile of bones in the official image, we could tell they would have kept his horn and crown of spikes for this version of the kaiju, so we'll do the same. Now that we have a general baseline of what we want it to look like, we can jump to Nomad Sculpt and begin sculpting our Anguirus model. We'll start by forming the basic armature of our lizard boy using the tube tool for his tail and spheres making up his body. This is where our first big anti-official Anguirus choice will be made. We're going to break some rules. Due to other eras using Suitmation or Tokusatsu style, Anguirus usually appears to be squatting with his back legs since it would be a very unnatural position for a man or woman in a suit. Since the Monsterverse uses CGI, I think we should follow Shimo's build more with legs that are upright like a real creature. One could argue that the squat could be like that of an iguana's, but I think at the end this would be a little more interesting and give him a better range of motion when going up against other kaiju. What do you think? Next up, we'll get this guy super horned up with a Triceratops horn protruding from his snout. We'll then make some adjustments to his legs and mirror them to the other side of the body. Now that his basic shape is complete, we can begin applying booleans to the different segments to make sculpting even easier. We can start smoothing out the creases so he looks more lifelike. After tweaking his body a bit, we'll smash his jaw with a hammer so that he can mog other kaiju and shape it to fit the more angular look. For his facial structure, I'm planning to blend his classic Showa era appearance with the aesthetic choices Legendary made for the King Ghidorah's lower jaw, as I believe they share a similar geometry. Next, we can use the tube tool and duplicate it multiple times to form Anguirus' iconic crown of horns. This base is already starting to look a lot like the kaiju, however it's missing one thing that no Anguirus has ever been designed without. That being his iconic armadillo back spikes. We'll sculpt out the first plate using a flattened sphere that we will then pull and prod to give the start of a pointy texture. To bring this design more in line with the Monsterverse aesthetic, I believe creating plates from spikes that resemble Godzilla's dorsal fins rotated 90 degrees would be a fantastic way to give this kaiju a unique and modern edge. I think adding some plates along the sides here can improve the shape and help us build out that Anguirus shell. Here's where the texture experimenting began. So much trial and error goes into the making of these customs, and I have found these texture alpha brushes to be a godsend. They make it super easy to add patches of scales and creases along the sides of the kaiju. It's also easy to go overboard with these, so we need to be really particular where we use them and pick the right ones for the different parts of the creature. For this kaiju's hips, we'll use these very defined scales. I find it works better when the texture is a bit exaggerated for the 3D print due to limitations with the nozzle size. Exaggerating these details also allows for more volume when we apply highlights and shadows in the painting stages. We'll make some additional tweaks to the body to make its form more interesting and began adding horns to Anguirus' crest and face. I noticed some spots that could use some more Stegosaurus armor around the back legs, and also added a ton of scales around the legs and tail to enhance the texture. For these kaiju figure builds, I'm trying to get better at matching up closer to the level of detail you can find at least an MMS series Bandai figure. The goal is to eventually get to Haya or SH Monstars level, but I have a lot to learn before then. Next up, we'll add 2 spheres for the eyes that we could begin planning the facial structure. This includes the eye ridges and brow line. An intriguing aspect of the Monsterverse kaiju design is the prevalence of prominent brow lines. This stylistic choice actually mirrors the treatment of monsters from the Showa era, though it is executed in a focus on realism rather than cartoonish aesthetic. Now we'll start building up Anguirus' crest plates, which don't appear in his other official designs, but I think would be a cool addition to bring him into the more serious tone Monsterverse. We'll add some spikes and add detail around his head to give him a more distinct look. Now we can jump to the giant Ankylosaurus tail. Throughout the years, he has had different designs, and most being almost barbed wire-like, but his final worst tail is like a wrecking ball, and this is great inspiration for what we want to do with this custom. I think the end of our Roly Boy's tail should have a unique feature that acts as an evolution on the final worst design. We'll get to that soon, but first let's build up the tail with armor. I mean, at the end of the day, this version needs to survive against Legendary's Big G. Now we can add a placeholder sphere so my ADD remembers to add his tail wrecking ball in a bit. His face looks like it could use some more love, so we'll hit it with some texture and then make our way over to the pearly whites. We could build them out with tubes that form his canines and the rest of his teeth. He's looking a little rat-like, so we'll have to adjust until we get the right look. Using this cool eye brush I found, we can easily add in his pupil and begin adding more texture around his face. Now we can focus on his most powerful weapon, his wrecking ball of a tail. I tried a few different looks for this, but eventually landed on this cool 4-spiked Stegosaurus-like tail end. We'll form his 4 feet with big, meaty claws, perfect for taking down other kaiju. Now this is where I thought I was done and actually printed this version out. At the time, I was happy with how it looked, and even began the painting process. But then something happened that really changed the trajectory of this piece. While attending Kaiju Brooklyn, an awesome event that had vendors, panels, and more, where I met many incredible artists and other kaiju fans, I came across a vendor booth that caught my eye. The vendor was Dope Pope, and his custom monster statues were super impressive. His work is so highly detailed, and he truly is a master of his craft. Not only that, but he's a super down-to-earth guy, and I actually bought this incredible King Caesar piece for him. Seeing his work really opened my eyes to what a master of the custom kaiju creations really is, and how much improvement I need to make in my own designs to get to the caliber of work that Dope Pope and other artists at his experience level make. On my train ride home, I decided that although I had already begun painting my Monsterverse Anguirus figure, I would completely trash the old design and restart, so everything up until this point was a major waste of my time and yours. Psych! Just kidding, we'll build where we are currently, and a lot of what we had already done will stay, and we'll make some major improvements where we can. I want this figure to be more detailed than ever before. Thank you, Dope Pope, for making me push this one even further. So I got home, spent the next 2 days ideating on how to make this the best piece yet, and got sick. It was a major gut punch, as this video was already taking longer than usual, and all I wanted to do was revise the model to be even better. The flu lasted about a week and a half, and when I was better, I finally found time to power up Nomad Sculpt to get back to work on the new and improved Monsterverse Anguirus. Let's jump back in and upgrade this guy to the next level. First off, we'll be sizing him up a bit to allow for even more detail from our FDM printer. I noticed all of Dope Pope's statues are printed with resin, which is why I think they feel so legit to the touch. Definitely something I want to consider for the future, but for now at least, until Bamboo Labs blesses us with a sponsorship, fingers crossed, we'll stick to all reliable. We're leveling this guy up. Let's upgrade where we can. First up, our Roly Boy's face. I noticed on the print of version 1, it's way too flat and shapeless. It feels like a bootleg, and we can't have that. We're going to give him a bris from his weak bitch-ass horn, and give him a premium Monsterverse ready horn perfect for puncturing Godzilla. We'll go into the smoother spots and add some much needed texture that must have been missed during the first go around. I also added this fuzzy texture to his backplates that immediately improved his look. Next, we'll smooth out any geometry that looks off from our res upscale and speed through some much needed texture edits. And we'll make the change that I believe really upgrades this guy. We'll put some much needed work into his eyebrow ridges and eyes. Look at how much that transforms the kaiju, it's crazy. Now let's give Anguirus a horn that he can be proud of, because we all know size matters here, and this man is pitching a face tent. We'll add in new pupils that really complement his look and add these strong looking smaller plates of armor along the top of his tail. I also went back in and fixed up his mouth, adding gums and making sure he looks like he can make his signature lawnmower sounding roar he did in the Pipeworks games. Shout out to the new Destroy Monster Melee remaster, I'm so excited for it. And with that, we can finally get our fully remastered Monsterverse Anguirus printed out on my amazing Bamboo Labs P1S printer. I used wood PLA this time to try and get a more organic look, even though we won't be able to see it after the paint job. You can already see here just how much more detail he has when compared to version 1. It's a major glow up. Since we really want to give this guy more love than usual, we will airbrush him with black matte primer, but then do something we haven't done on this channel in a while. Hand painting. That's right. I just finished a side project hand painting this amazing Kujira Designs King Kong 1962 figure, and I have way more experience painting this way and can achieve a much cleaner look. Let me know in the comments if you want to see this video. I noticed I've been leaning on the airbrush a lot recently when it should really be a balance of the two to get a great looking figure. So we'll start by base coating his body in this brighter tan color. Next we'll add a base coat to the upper layer of his body using a more yellow tinted tan, which will give the spiky area on his back some much needed contrast. We can then coat his talons and horns in an ivory white color. We'll be sure to dirty this up in a bit to blend in with the palette more. Now we can add some muted grayish brown on his spike plates along with his abdomen and under the tail area. We're going for a mix between his Showa and Final Wars looks, but dulling it out a bit to match the color themes of the Monsterverse Kaiju. He's looking super tanky so far, which is a good sign. Next we'll blend in 2 coats with some dry brushing of tans that will give us some smooth gradients between the different parts of the body. We'll be very careful and apply the whites of his eyes with a very small brush for accuracy. As usual, I didn't get it done super cleanly, but we could go back and fix this before we finish, and we definitely will. Next, I mixed up some of the body colors with some red to give us this awesome muted red for the gums and mouth. I purposefully hit some parts around the mouth to give him a more somewhat battle damage, as if he has been in some monster fights already. Then we'll add some of this red to the creases of the whites of the eyes. This should make him look a little bit more menacing and fleshy. Now we'll use a black wash with some heavily watered down paint all around the body so that the shadows seep into the cracks. We could dab away the rest with a paper towel. Here's where I made a slight mistake and used a little too much on a very elevated area. So in a panic, I added some water to try and drown out the paint, but in my haste, Anguirus might have received some battle damage to his horn. This sucked, but I think it will give him some more character that we could work into the design. Using a fine tip brush and some black paint, we'll hit the corners of his eyes, which will give us a mean facial expression. He should be angry he was killed off in the Monsterverse before seeing any on-screen action. We can take this dark paint and fill in some of the shadows around his body to really increase the contrast and make him more interesting to look at. This really defines his features and gives us the new level of detail that we're looking for. Apologies for the camera going in and out of focus here. We will need to upgrade this part of the video soon with a more reliable manual focus. Lastly, we'll go around for some touch-ups where needed and try something new. I got this cool acrylic gloss varnish that will apply to his eyes, horns, and spike plates to differentiate the texture on his body a little bit more and give him some more volume. I'm hoping this doesn't ruin the figure, but having used it once before, I kind of know what to expect with it, and we need to take risks sometimes. Now, without further ado, on to our finished Monsterverse Anguirus figure. This is a super cool take on what a Monsterverse Anguirus could look like. Alive, of course. I think I nailed his overall look and form, but there's definitely still room for improvement. I want to deliver the best custom designs I can, and will keep pushing to get better, and I'm excited to have you guys along for that journey. If you enjoyed what you saw, please be sure to like and subscribe, and hit that hype button. It helps out the channel and allows us to move towards our goal of 5,000 subs. We're about to hit 3,000, so thank you guys so much for that. Also, just a quick channel update. My wife and I are expecting our first child next month, so I want to be transparent and let you guys know that videos might take a little bit longer than usual to make, but I think shorts will be a good way to fill the gaps until I'm settled into my new routine with our little guy, so please bear with me while I get used to that. Thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to let me know down below who should be the next Is It Real Kaiju, and which Godzilla era that they should be created for. Also be sure to check out the inspiration for this video, Dope Pope on Instagram. He's super cool and his work is amazing. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.